support at Illinois State University. Joining me today is Leah Brock, and she is the counseling specialist at the ILCTE is their website, but it's the Innovative Curriculum Resource Project. And so we're going to talk to you today about who is in your CTE network and what that means. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started this morning. Everybody is currently in listen-only mode. We will be pausing for questions, so if you have questions, please post those in the chat box. Or if you would like to speak, we are happy to unmute you and have you raise your hand. Sound great? Okay, so off we go. So who is in your CTE network? And what we're really looking at here is building your career and technical education network from formation to best practice. So this webinar couples very nicely with our webinar coming up in a couple weeks around best practices and effective practices from those of you in the field of what's going on with CTE networks. This today is going to be a lot of resources. It's going to be a lot of suggestions and ideas and what the state has to support you. And just a couple things I wanted to make you aware of. In the handout section there that you can see, there is a CTE Advocacy 101, and that is produced by Advanced CTE. And in addition to that, there are do's and don'ts in talking with parents and students about career and tech ed. I thought those were some fun handouts that we could share with you. So why should this be important to you? The more important information that you possess, the better you will be able to serve your students. And frontline staff interacting with students is really, you are the second largest point of contact for students across the country when it comes to career information, the first being their parents. So when we're looking at how we communicate with students and making sure that our counselors are aware of what career and technical education does, and I'm guessing you've probably heard me say that before, because all of the research shows that counselors are essential to assisting students in selecting career and technical education fields and whatever their long-term goals are. Open communication with CTE teachers, specialized support personnel, and administration is essential. And counselors and advisors are that intersection of these groups. So you are very important to the way in which things are communicated. Personal and professional development, resource sharing, a deeper understanding of career and technical education programs that you not only have at your school, but also that are available in your community college. And that's one of the things that we're going to be exploring a little deeper in that face-to-face training that's coming up March 6th, is the idea of knowing your network and then having those conversations. And how do you have those conversations between secondary and post-secondary? Because due to the comprehensive local needs assessment that we talked about last time we were together, there is a definite focus on coordination and collaboration between secondary and post-secondary under Perkins 5. And the community needs awareness. That's something that you do very well. So we've talked about this before, just kind of a rehash slide here. Perkins 5, the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, affectionately known as Perkins 5, provides powerful opportunities to consult, coordinate with stakeholders throughout the state plan and local application. Importantly, meaningful engagement will not only make these plans better, but also foster partnerships and relationships to sustain through implementation. So we're looking at not only this focus on counseling in Perkins 5, but also a focus on engagement and engagement with business, engagement with secondary and post-secondary, engagement with community-based organizations. Everyone able to see my screen? I have a couple people saying that they're having trouble seeing the screen. Maybe that should be rectified now. I'll go back and show you the previous slide. Beautiful slide. So it looks like we're good to go now. And then who should be in your CTE network? And this is really what we're going to dive into today. And not only who should be in your CTE network, but how do we communicate with those individuals and what that path to communication should look like. So who should be in your CTE network? Your local workforce board. The Congress that wrote the WIOA legislation is also the same Congress that wrote the Perkins legislation. And so there is a lot of intentionality with partnership between between career and tech ed and the WIOA system. So your local workforce board should be part of that. In addition to that, we want, and as I said, there's a definite focus on engaging employers and working with businesses, and not necessarily having career and tech ed be business-led, but engaged with business, because the ultimate goal is to communicate with business and have business share their expectations with career and tech ed. Industry associations, they also are beneficial to your network. Secondary and post-secondary faculty, students, community partners and organizations, and parents. So think about your CTE network, and that's what we're going to do for the next hour, is kind of reflect on who is in our CTE network and where are those areas that maybe we don't have people in that CTE network, and do we need to find those individuals? Because they do exist. They are in your area. Effective engagement. So some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, and I've pulled from a lot of different national resources. This is put together by Advanced CTE, and it is a 9-step process that looks at effective engagement. And we're going to unpack this, and I'm going to full disclosure, I'm unpacking this in approach to career counselors and advisors. I am not unpacking this in this pure stakeholder engagement. So we've taken some liberties with some of their research, and I can show you what those look like. So establish your internal partnerships. This is really important. Determine who at your institution should be in your network. And whether you're secondary or post-secondary, there's a value to looking around and saying, who should I be working with? Who do you interact with on a daily basis? And who do your students interact with? That should be part of your CTE network. Who are those internal partners? Should the principal be aware of career and tech ed? Of course. Should your faculty? Yes. But are there people who you interact with that might not interact with other people? And can you be that bridge in some of your internal communications, perhaps between the English department or the English department and the industrial tech department, things of that nature. Establish your external partners. So when you're looking for career and technical education and looking at your network, we want you to reach out to your counterparts across the hall, i.e. that secondary, post-secondary. And I'm not going to have you answer out loud. Well, you can. You're all muted. You can answer out loud. But how many of you know your academic advising counterpart in the secondary system? And how many of you know your academic counseling and advising counterpart in the post-secondary system? Do you meet on a regular basis? Have you been meeting as part of these comprehensive local needs assessment discussions? Is there an opportunity for you to coordinate? And if not, is there an opportunity that we need to create for you to coordinate? Begin with the partners who may also provide services to your students. So when you're looking at your partners, you're looking at your one-stop partners. So those are your WIOA, your LWIA partners, your community-based organizations. A lot of the special populations have community-based organizations that support them, and that's one of the things as we enter into special populations, including now homeless and foster care youth. There are several community-based organizations who have been conducting that lift for many years, so partnering with them is very helpful as a resource. Build a relationship with local employers and other community partners, and these are who your students will be interacting with once they leave your institution. So really having them as part of your CTE network. The question I'd ask you as counselors are, do you go to advisory committee meetings? Every CTE program is required to have an advisory committee. And what is the counseling advising role in those advisory committees? And do you have that role in your institution? And if not, who would you contact to be a part of that? Again, utilizing your role in the comprehensive local needs assessment and program advisory committees. So step one in really talking to individuals and clarifying your goals is to clarify your goals. Clarify your overall vision, define objectives for engagement with the particular stakeholder, determine how to engage with a stakeholder, and there's a great resource on parent engagement that I have as a handout here for you today. But what you're really looking at is what is the goal? What are you going in for? I know when we talk with business often, there is that discussion and dialogue around what can I do for you and what can you do for me with the institution. And so as a counselor, that's also kind of that approach. What are you bringing to the table? And then what do you want to get out of that correspondence or that relationship as well? Some fun facts here, and I do want to acknowledge that I did steal these. So there is a research study that was done by Advanced CTE, and what they did was they looked at marketing strategies, and that's the other document that's in there, is that Advocacy 101. But just to pull some resources out of there and talk about what CTE delivers and how that is a big benefit when talking to parents. So 91% of parents of students in CTE believe that their child is getting a leg up on their career compared to only 44% of prospective students. What this tells us is once we get students engaged with career and technical education, they see the benefit of career and technical education. But sometimes it's challenging getting them to see the benefit. 82% of CTE students are satisfied with their ability to learn real-world skills in school compared to only 51% of non-CTE students. And 80% of CTE students in CTE, 80% of students in career and technical education are satisfied with their ability to participate in internships compared with only 30% of their prospective partners, our parents. So looking at data that we're really showing that once our students are engaged in career and tech ed, they really do see the benefit to career and tech ed. Another thing to just be acknowledging and be aware of is that CTE awareness is moderate. Just 47% of prospective parents and students have heard of career and technical education, compared to 68% of vocational education, a term that is still used rampantly throughout our country and definitely within our state. 54% career center, 45% career education, and 30% career academy. One of the things we'll talk about in a little bit is meeting individuals where they are. And that is something that we just need to look at what language we should be using and what language we are using. And one of the things that has been very important is discussing whether or not the language that we're using is where our audience is, and should we modify our terms and possibly not use such bureaucratic terms sometimes. So the next step would be work with partners to identify and engage in your network. Determine who makes outreach to your stakeholders. That might not be your role. That might be the faculty's role. But again, getting yourself to that table and discussing and being part of those advisory committees for each of the CTE programs and part of the role with student organizations. We'll talk about those in a little bit. And then also looking at our role with students who are engaging with parents and explaining the benefits to career and tech ed. Asking partners to serve as ambassadors in your stakeholder engagement. This is really important when you're looking at how do you market your CTE programs and how does your school market the CTE programs, or how do you communicate with parents about career and technical education. The essential role is helping them understand the benefits, and the best speakers for that are your current students or your former students, your success stories. So here we're going to talk a little bit about speaking to your audience, meeting your audience where they are. And that's one of those things when it comes to language. Language is important. Share materials ahead of time. One of the things that there's a resource we're going to share with you at the end. Advanced CTE has put together a lot of one-pagers on the benefits of career and technical education. So when dealing with parents, that's something that you might want to have in your wheelhouse, in your offices, available to your audience, and allow sufficient time for stakeholders to respond to requested feedback and input. Real-world messaging entices everyone, and this is another thing that came out of the study that was done by Advanced CTE. It said top-ranked messages across all audiences by race, ethnicity, educational level, income level, and geographic distribution. All subpopulations selected CTE's ability to offer students real-world skills as one of the 3 most important elements of their education. And so understanding and touting that career and tech ed is that real-world application. Some language that works and language that is beneficial to the system is really looking at real-world, hands-on, mentoring, internships. There's a huge focus right now for secondary and post-secondary individuals for apprenticeships, and so that's one way to look at that. Explore career options and what you are passionate about, career and career focused, and extra advantages for both college and career. One of the things that is outlined in the notes from the talking points with parents is to not distinguish career and tech ed from college, that college is career and tech ed and career and tech ed is college. And there is a definite focus because of the old term vocational education, that if you go into a voc education that you don't need a college degree, and that is just not the case anymore. Every career and technical education field does require some form of certification or degree, and so there is that need for post-secondary. That is why there's that re-emphasis this year and moving forward on secondary, post-secondary collaboration, that emphasis on engaging with business. So one of the things, and I'm guaranteeing I'm preaching to the choir on this one, but I didn't want to skip it, is the idea of using multiple vehicles, multiple methods of communication when sending information out. If you think about how, and I will use my own school as an example. So today is a snow day, and not only did I get a call this morning, I got an email, and then I also got a text. And then it's also on their Facebook page and on their website. So when you're trying to communicate information, it's important to use multiple methods because you want to be sure you have that larger reach. Leveraging existing meetings and communication methods that are already being used. Again, getting yourself into those advisory meetings and being part of those, thinking about methods of communication that you want to use for that first engagement to emphasize your role and your importance in those places with career and tech ed. One of the things that is really important, and I share this across the board, whether I'm dealing with how individuals who are starting up advisory committees or speaking with you about counseling or talking to administrators, if we as institutions of public education, if we ask for input before decisions are made, we need to use that. And if we are engaging in roles with advisory and with business especially, and we ask for information on how we want to modify our programs or distinguish our programs or improve our programs, and if they give us that information, you want to use that information. There's an old adage of don't ask questions you don't actually want the answer to, and I think that's a really important note when we look at how to engage with our partners and build our CTE networks. I want to pause here for a second. I see a hand up, and so I want to see if there's any questions. Jane, did you have a question? Jane Fleming? I can unmute you, Jane, and you'll be able to speak. Jane, would you like to speak?
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. You had your hand up, so I thought you needed something. And then we did have a question about whether or not the one-pager information is in Spanish. I will follow up with that. Again, if they're a national organization, so I will see if I can find that on their website. And I'll share the link. It's in our web. It's in this PowerPoint as to where I got that information. I'm giving absolute credit for all this. I didn't create it all myself. Moving along then, thank you all for your questions. Keep your materials simple and brief. And that's one of the things that we talk about, just kind of that KISS principle across the board. Concise, easy to understand and develop. CTE has a lot of information that they put out. And I know you as advisors and school counselors see a lot of data on a lot of different people, but what do our audience need? And what does our CTE network look like? And how do we help them understand our role as counselors and then help us understand what they bring to the table as well? Communicate clearly and often. We spoke about that a little bit. And then turn new connections into long-term relationships. One of the things that's exciting about the comprehensive local needs assessment and exciting about this opportunity with Perkins 5 is that there's a lot of new relationships being formed, new connections being developed, that secondary, post-secondary opportunity. And what we want to do is be sure that those connections turn into long-term relationships. How do you not only start that conversation with your counterpart at the secondary system or the post-secondary system, but also then how do you continue that? Do you set up monthly meetings? Do they attend a workshop that you're putting on? Do we share those resources? And are we thinking of those individuals when we are putting on local professional development? So with that, I'm going to now kind of pause and go into the resources. Again, when we're looking at building our CTE network and who should be in our CTE network, there's a lot of state resources that we'll cover. We've talked about engaging with our local resources here for the first few minutes, but there's a lot of state resources that are also available. So what are those state resources? And if you don't know about them, we're going to share some of those wonderful resources that exist. The first information there is the resources for the core messaging. A lot of what we presented today, the do's and don'ts, which is in your attachment and that fact sheet, can be found at this website right here, careertech.org/recruitment strategies. So if there is a Spanish version to that individual, it would be there. If not, let me know, and actually I'll research as well and get you one, because they, as a national organization, I would assume they would have those. I'm going to hand the floor over now to Leah, and Leah is going to talk a little bit about the innovative curriculum resources that she works with, and what that project looks like and what that project does to support counselors. Leah, are you with us?
Okay, let's try that.
There we go, yes.
Okay, I couldn't tell if it was muted on my end or your end. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Leah Brock, and I am the school counselor leader, the career leader for a grant called the Innovative Curriculum Resources Project. We are a Perkins-funded project based out of Illinois State University. We were formerly known under a different name a few years back, so you might have heard some of this before, but we are now associated with Illinois State, and we're partners with Illinois State Board of Education. So everything that we have to offer you is Perkins funded, so I can say it's free, but it's tax money, I guess, that goes towards it anyhow. But we are a state agency that talks to teachers, administrators, counselors on behalf of a couple of CTE areas. You can see on my website there, technology education, family and consumer science, business, and the health sciences. We have a representative from all those areas that reach out to your teachers, especially at the secondary level, for training purposes, for lesson planning and things like that, to keep them abreast of new and exciting things going on in CTE in the state of Illinois. My role with the grant is I was a school counselor for many years in Central Illinois. I took part in this grant to kind of advocate for a partnership, to be kind of liaison between kind of, like Amy said, kind of include a partnership and try and figure out how to build those partnerships so that we can advocate for our CTE students at many levels in the secondary environment. So that's a little bit about us. The website you see in front of us, ilcte.org, has the different links to the different specialties that we participate in, calendars, any events that we have coming up. There is hopefully that flyer on the front there is familiar to you, because that is a great piece when it comes to representing CTE in Illinois. If you haven't seen that before, there's a link to it right on our website. It's also available through the Illinois State Board of Education. It's a career programming guide for the state of Illinois. And some districts have actually even supplemented it with their own specific information. So it's a beautiful flyer. It's a little kind of a magazine that talks about all the employment opportunities in the different CTE fields in Illinois, and how to go about obtaining those skills and any kind of post-secondary degrees or certifications or anything that might be needed in those areas as well. So that's a great piece right there. And then again, you can just kind of click through and look through the different pieces and see what might be handy for you. Again, everything we have is free. Any professional development we do, any kind of trainings we do, also free. So again, don't ever hesitate to kind of, ask if we have it, or if you need help finding it or anything like that. As we build, our libraries and things, we're trying to do what's best for you as professionals. So if you ever kind of notice that you're short in a lesson plan in a certain area, or you need some PD or some guidance on how to have a conversation with your administrators, or how to participate more in an advocacy program, those are all things that we can help you with. So we're happy to be here. So a little bit about that. Let's skip on to that next one, please. So currently, we are working on a couple specific projects. We have been given guidance on building lessons for both counselors and CTE teachers that are very student focused, very student centered. If you're familiar with something called the 5E model, it's part of the professional learning cycle that we want to make sure that lesson plans are evaluated and are vital and are exciting and are things that students really want to be a part of. So that's kind of a new and exciting thing that we're building currently. We just had one writing session. But let's see, what month is this? February, last month in January, and then we have another one coming up in March. So if you're really excited about lesson planning and lesson writing or curriculum development, and any of those areas that I mentioned earlier, or if you're or specifically excited about careers, and you want to see more Illinois-based information in that area, my information will be here. You can contact me. But that's one of the things we're currently working on, is building that library. Another program that we're working on is a video series. So as far as advocating and marketing your programs, we are going throughout the state of Illinois, talking to counselors, teachers, students, businesses, anybody that has something to say about CTE, and trying to build a network of, or a library of videos, so that students can see CTE in action, so that parents can see CTE in action, so that when you're having these conversations about what is CTE, what does it mean to me, why should I be a part of it, there'll be about 7 videos that will highlight basically what those CTE programs mean to the state of Illinois. So again, if you're excited about anything going on in your school, or in your community, any business or any CTE programs, any career programs that you have locally, that you see students doing really cool and interesting and important things, let me know, because we would love to be a part of that and take what you have and highlight it for the rest of the state, because a lot of times there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If there's something good going on in Cahokia that we can share with people in Champaign, we want to build that network for you and make something that Illinois can be proud of. So be aware of that. Again, the statewide support, we are based out of Illinois State University, but we are all over the place. We have people based in Joliet and Havana and Springfield, Bloomington. So we advocate for the entire state. So just be aware that even though it's part of a Bloomington group, that we're more than willing to come visit your department and talk to you about the cool things you're doing, and be the liaison then between what you have to offer and the state of Illinois. Because as Amy mentioned, we do have people at the state level that are over all these programs too, this CTE initiatives and the career initiatives, but you don't get to see those people a lot, and we do. So we are happy to take anything that you have back to those people and share at a state level the cool and important things that you have going on in your districts. So upcoming activities, that's the flyer that I'm sharing as we go along. So again, the contact information, those are the 2 projects that we're kind of specifically working on right now. And if you have, again, any more questions about that, please let me know. What else can I tell you about that? I think I have one more. Yeah, and then, as Amy was talking too, I was just kind of brainstorming on the network that I advocate for when I talk to counselors and teachers, when we're talking about putting together groups, committees, and things like that, people who need to know about what you're doing as a professional in your area and what your students are doing. Obviously, teachers, parents, and counselors, but the alumni, your school board, don't hesitate to put together a brag book and go out to a school board meeting or ask for time for your superintendent and just sit down with them for 5 minutes even and share out the good things that your students are doing, because yes, CTE programs are a lot of times the more expensive programs that are part of a school day, and we want everyone to know that their dollar is going far when they support those programs. So school board meetings, again, higher education, your business and industry. If you're not familiar with the term EFE director, they are the people within your district who monitor that Perkins money. Sometimes they're at the superintendent level, sometimes they're district level, sometimes they're county level. So if you don't know that terminology or who that person is, that's an important person to get to know as well. And if you don't know who yours is, that's available on my website or the state's website too. People like your Chamber of Commerce, local, organizations, your CTSOs, politicians even. Obviously, nobody likes to spend a whole lot of time trying to reach out to politicians, and unless it's something very important. So if you're going to take that time and advocate for something that is important to you in those conversations, be sure to bring up education, and just let them know that CTE is something you value, and you're willing to be a part of that.
Excellent. Thank you, Leah. This is a lovely list, and I loved that it was put here. As we started the webinar, we discussed what our community should look like, what our CTE network should look like, and then this kind of nicely bookends it. So as you're looking at this list and you're looking at this slide, who do you already have? Who are you checking off? Oh yeah, I talk with counselors all the time because I'm a counselor. I talk with teachers all the time, students, parents. Ooh, school board, hadn't really thought about them. Maybe I should. What is the best mechanism of communication to communicate with your school board or your superintendent or your principal? Higher education can be both your community college or your university that's nearby, depending on your location. Business and industry, EFE system directors. I'm going to hope that most of you know who your system directors are, because they are leaned on a lot in the career and tech ed world for being those individuals who are really spreading the information and sharing the information out. They're often called system directors instead of EFE directors, just a name that they've picked up since their inception back in '84. But they are essential to the work of the secondary career and technical education system. So they're somebody who, if you don't know, look them up, find out who yours is. Chamber of Commerce is fantastic. And again, social organizations, student-based organizations, and those individuals who lead those organizations, and then also political leaders. This, and I'm sure she intended to go over this, Leah, you can speak to it a little bit too, is that's their website, and this is all of their contact information for each of their individuals. So Ron McQuality is their project director. Leah's highlighted there as their career counselor. And then as Leah outlined, there's a lot of different individuals, actually specific individuals for each of those project areas. The next resource we're going to talk about is the center that I work for, is the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. And we too are at Illinois State University, but we too are also a statewide professional development center. So we support both secondary and post-secondary. And this is a look at our website. And ICSPS has been around since 1977 in some form or fashion. Our wheelhouse, our expertise is special population support. So if you're looking for individuals who are non-traditional or seeking a non-traditional occupation for their gender, English language learners, homeless youth, foster care youth, things of that nature, that's really where our expertise does lie. We also partner often with post-secondary and have funding from post-secondary as well as the workforce system, because those populations are prominent in all of our educational systems, not just in one. ICSPS creates, supports, and delivers professional development for career, technical, and adult education professionals across Illinois. We provide technical assistance, develop publications, facilitate program improvement strategies for our partners as related to college transition, recruitment, retention, and completion, encouraging the achievement of special population learners. very similar to Leah's group, we are statewide. So though we are housed at Illinois State University, we are all over the state. And so we will be at the Connections conferences. We host the Forum for Excellence for those of you who are in post-secondary. We work with the WIOA Summit from the workforce system. The Career Counseling Conference that will be happening in April will be a part of that as well. So we're out there everywhere, or as much as we can be. This is just a page within our website to kind of give you a flavor of some of the professional development that we have done. So we have two ways in which we can provide professional development. One is the websites and webinars, which we send out to the system. And many of you have been added to our listserv. And if you would like to continue, just don't, don't hit the do not reply, and we'll be good. But we, this fall, did a whole series on trauma-informed care. We have a grant with the Illinois State Board of Education around supporting students with autism and transitioning from secondary into post-secondary, or from secondary into the workforce. And we've done series of workshops on that information. That is a really nice way to see who also is in your CTE network. And then navigating the transition years for individuals with autism. We have quite a few different resources and different workshops we put on for special populations. In addition to that, though, if you see something that you're like, wow, that looks amazing, I'd love to have that at my school, in my district, in my region, we will customize that and come to your area. That is something that we do as well. So we put on statewide events, and then in addition to that, we also are happy to come to your regional events, or to your school events, or to any of your events. Some other resources now I want to show you, and I'm guessing you have seen these. ICCB has a plethora of resources. The Illinois Community College Board, again, more post-secondary focused, but there is a definite partnership, and we have talked about that on all of our webinars, that partnership between secondary and post-secondary. So the other side of that partnership is the Illinois State Board of Education. ICCB has a student service area, which is a lot of the counseling and advising resources are there. ISBE has a separate web page there for school counselors. So I'm sure you are all very familiar with this if it does pertain to you, and if it doesn't, it is a fun resource. They have professional development specifically for counselors, as well as some of the stuff that we provide around career and technical education counseling support. This is who we heard from on our last webinar, and I just wanted to highlight them again. Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment. They have some great resources at OCCRL around equity and race, and looking at those bridging the gap areas. And so that's a wonderful resource that you can check out as well, which is OCCRL, who is Office of Community College Research and Leadership over at the U of I. And then I would be in a little remiss if I did not mention our career and technical student organizations. The student organizations are very prevalent in both the secondary and the post-secondary system, and the individuals at your schools who are, or at your institutions, who are part of the community, the center, student-based organizations, you should get to know. They should definitely be in your CTE network, because they are boots on the ground with the students as you are, and they are helping those students get through. So those are the lists that are available nationally, and I know I think we have all of those in the state of Illinois as well. So with that, this is going to be my opportunity to open the floor up for questions, and just wanted to see if there's any questions from anyone at this time. You can either raise your hand or post those questions in the question pane. Tracy Jones, you have your hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and allow you to ask your question. Tracy? Okay, I think she might not have wanted her hand up. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? Tracy, I'm going to try that again because your hand is up again. Tracy, would you like to speak? You are unmuted, Tracy, if you'd like to speak. Okay. If anybody does have additional questions, please feel free to contact either Leah or I. We are both very much willing to answer any questions, and if we don't know, we will definitely find you the answers. We do have one more webinar left in our series, and that is going to take place on February 27th, so 2 weeks from today at 10 a.m. And this webinar is really going to not only talk about, today we spent a lot of time looking at our CTE network and who should be in that network, and really kind of this 10,000 foot view of how we should engage and what that looks like and all that fun stuff. But our next webinar is going to have real application. So we're going, not that today didn't have real application, but really you're going to hear from your friends and your neighbors and individuals who are in the same role that you are in how they have built their CTE network, who has been included in their CTE network, and what are some of the challenges and some of the excitement about the CTE network. So again, February 27th at 10 a.m., we will have that webinar. March 6th is the capstone event, and at the capstone event, we're going to have a business panel. We're going to talk about the benefits of career and technical education. We're going to share some more research, and we're going to let businesses tell us what is the best way to talk to them about career and tech ed. So that will be a fantastic event as well. I did send out an evaluation to those who had attended webinars previously. You'll have an evaluation with this webinar as well. We'd love to hear from you. We are really changing the dynamic of this Career and Technical Education Counseling Academy this year. Last year, we focused on restorative practice and really looked at that. And this year, we're focusing more on Perkins 5. So we want to hear from you what you're liking, what you're not liking, and what you want to see done for the upcoming years as well. With that, I want to thank you all for your time today. I hope you are all staying warm, because where I am, it is cold and snowy, and I wish you all the best and have a great day. Thank you.